This one's called A Train Ride with My Goldfish. Oh, and it's a story, it's not a poem. And also, you know, as a story, it's a piece of prose, and if you remember in your last workshop, you said prose gets paid, so...
No, you misinterpreted me.
I know, it's prose get paid professionally, yeah.
No, I mean, it was
That was the joke. Stop ruining it.
Only we were there.
Right. Wow, this is dented. Anyway, I was sitting by the window on my way home from a carnival in the Middle Ages. I want a goldfish. The train was a bright red gleaming machine of innovation and exquisite sounds. The rushing air shunted me with smells of brake oil, fuel, and crowds of people excited and terrified me. I saw an umbrella there on the platform. It blew away after I'd seen it. I watched it twist and turn in the wind and disappear. It was missed, and I begged it to return, but Goldfish wouldn't let me be sentimental. I boarded the train. Okay, I said. Goldfish wasn't happy, but lately he never was happy, I mean. He leant over with a glass full of Scotch whiskey and told me about his life in the bowl. It was bleak. It's okay, I told him. He put the whiskey down, and with it went his foul mood. But how do you stop a fish drinking? We were by the window looking out, and the plains stretched on for miles. A tiny house with a tiny car and tiny inhabitants stood in the distance. I thought it would be a nice place to live. Goldfish didn't. A bowl is a bowl is a bowl. Doesn't matter the size or shape, he said. I didn't want to admit it, but he had a point. The umbrella came back right then, stuck in the doorway with 2 carriages down. It rocked back and forth, desperate to be free, but the train showed no signs of slowing. It's dead. Don't bother. Goldfish was enjoying this. He knew I'd be sentimental. He knew that the chance encounter in the platform would spark a passion in me for umbrellas. I'd known Goldfish for longer than I'd owned him at this point. His awareness of me was unappealing. Go on then, save it. It's not like you're afraid of heights or speed or glass or rough wood or... I stopped listening to him. Today would not be one of those days. Why don't you make yourself useful and save it for me? I was angry and hurt. Goldfish had been my companion now a whole day without yet showing his worth. His pessimism instead making me feel worse. He looked indignant and he retreated back to his castle, the underwater fort. Staring out the opposite window, I saw that the sun was setting across the plains I longed to live in. The train stopped. Passengers climbed on and off. Goldfish stared at their faces. With some look, they couldn't hear his bitter chiding of their looks and faces. Stop, I said. He glared at me and swam back into his castle. The noise of him smashing up his bedroom came not long after. A bed bounced on and a mirror cracking under a fin. There was a long silence after that. It lasted a few stops, and Goldfish wouldn't come out to berate more travellers. He just stared out the window, moping and wishing I could tell when he was crying. A bit longer passed. A gentleman in a suit sat by me, and Goldfish kept quiet, acted normal, nonchalant. I pulled a tab of chewing gum from my pocket, trying to lever it out from underneath my notepad. The man left a few stops later, and Goldfish let out a massive sigh before the carriage filled with noise. He was playing his guitar, badly. Canon in D first, missing chords and skipping the fast bits completely, then playing the guitar version of Fur Elise that he penned himself. He poked his head up out the castle and looked at me. How's my playing? I'm still trying to learn that new riff, and it's annoying the crap out of me. I knew what he wanted and what would happen if I didn't say it. It's okay, yeah. Just okay? I don't know, it's good. For God's sake, you know, I wish I knew someone with more musical instruments than a fucking egg roll. I watched as the train left yet another platform, and I decided to see if Goldfish was okay. He'd been stewing in his juices for the past hour. Literally. I leant over his bowl tentatively. Goldfish? He didn't respond. Goldfish? Are you okay? Silence. I panicked. Suddenly I was alone again, and the water came flooding back. The murky fog and endless sea stretched for miles and threatened to take me far away. All I could do was watch as the train drifted away from me like it had forgotten I existed. The water wasn't too cold, and I was almost sure it was shark and other horrors free after spending the first trip here flailing like a seal. The train was so far away I could only just make out Goldfish's presumably empty bowl and an empty little booth. And I watched the door swing open. Good morning! Is it okay if I join you? A woman in a blue and white polka dot dress, matching sapphire blue flats and an elegant modified beret stumbled into the carriage as the train lurched forward. I looked around the carriage, mindful of the water. Of course, I said. There's lots of room. I don't think people come in here much because they think I'm mad. She giggled and sat in the corner. "You're a very strange man," she said, "and you are a very beautiful woman." She gave a start, but relaxed. "Sorry, I tend to say what I think." She looked at me with a half smile and then looked out the window. I couldn't really read her expression. I wanted to keep talking, but I thought better of asking questions like, "Where are you going?" or "What's your name?" So I settled with something non-intrusive, something that wasn't really a direct question. I wonder what it would feel like to drown. I waited for a response. She turned to me, her face still fixed in this impression I couldn't understand. "I don't know," she said, "but I imagine it's better than burning." As the darkness pressed harder against Jill's eyelids, she felt suffocated, opening them only to find the same room, repulsive, dirty and barren. She had dreamt it away many times, but it remained, waiting for her to awake. Her mother's chair creaked loudly and she jumped. She looked through her hair slowly to find her mother slumped to sleep in her dirty rocking chair, fag in hand, still lit and smoking. The icy wind and rain battered against the window, threatened to tear the roof off and launch it away. Jill rolled and sat tired and bored, staring out into the storm, watching rain drizzle down the notches and gouges in the glass. Jack slept on. A thunderclap rang loud and deafening, waking Jack and his mother from sleep and violently shaking them to sense. The mother swore loudly and stood, walking with a limp to the sink where she tried to fix herself a drink. The rain continued. "Fucking water's off," she hissed. And she threw her glass stain at the cowering children. It shattered like a bomb, a sign that they had to go now to the stone well lying atop the nearest hill. If they did not, Jill shuddered, fearing even the end of the sentence. Jack and Jill went. They quickly donned their coats and hats, hiding the bruises and scars left by a drunken mother, hiding her betrayal, sacrificing their freedom. "Come on, little Jack," Jill said. Her maternal instinct shone through when she was alone with him. He was 4 and she was 12. She loved him and wanted to take him away where the cruel mother could do no harm. Up the hill, the long, soaking trudge to the well took an eternity, with a bland landscape made from nothing but hills and trees. Mud covered the south side of the hill and made it harder and messier to climb. It was almost like a bog in places, feet and ankles stuck fast in the mud. Jill hoped the way down would be easier than this, because this was just madness. To fetch a pail of water seemed like a simple enough task, but as the well got closer, Jill broke down. She wept for her brother, herself, her life. She wanted to be away from this madness, away from her mother, and she wanted to be free. She turned to Jack, bleary-eyed and mad with despair. "I'm going to save you, Jack. I'm going to take you away from here," she whispered. He smiled broadly. Jill collapsed into his shoulder, crying desperate sobs, loud and wailing as she hugged Jack to her chest. She held him by the shoulders and threw him as hard as she could off the hill. Jack fell down. He spun sideways, twisting, his face contorted into shock. Jill wept harder, screaming agony. Jack finally hit the floor. He was struck a glancing blow from a jutting spine of rock and landed on a plateau with his limbs splayed. Jill lost all strength. She collapsed and lay at the top of the hill. She screamed and screamed and screamed, desperate sobs broken by gasps of precious air. Jack broke his crown. She could not remember how long she lay there. Minutes, hours, days. She sat up, blind from tiredness and tears, and pulled herself to the edge. She could see Jack. He looked asleep on the rocks, peaceful, like he'd never been beaten in his life, like a normal kid with a normal family. She wanted to see him closer. She stepped on the rocks, covered in mud. She slipped. Jill came tumbling after. She felt a rush as the air past her falling body. She felt like she was flying, like an eagle, a free eagle allowed to go anywhere. She came to earth and hit the rocks hard, harder than Jack had. She lay there next to him, mere feet away, splattered in blood. Her face looked peaceful, like she'd never been beaten in her life, like a normal girl in a normal family. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Thank you very much.